Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Izuku Yagi was the last shinobi part 1. If you guys enjoy this what if and want to see part 2, comment down below and let me know before I start. Please do support for more awesome content and leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also share this video with your friends and check out the description in my playlist. The author of the story 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗃 from Wattpad. So let's start the video. Third-person POV. A lot of people have dreamt of having heroes for parents. It's a dream that one would do anything for. What could possibly be better than being the child of a hero, a person who saves people? One might wonder. Yet, in reality, a lot of examples show that having hero parents is more of a curse than a blessing. One of those who were cursed by heroic parents was Izuku Yagi, the son of All Might, the #1 hero of Japan and the symbol of peace in the world. It was back when the kid was 4 years old. He, with his twin sister and parents, had gone to a doctor to check what kind of quirks the twins had. The parents were thrilled to hear that their daughter had a telekinetic quirk that had the potential to become even more powerful and useful than her mother's similar quirk. They were so excited to find out their other kid's quirk, but they were let down when the doctor said that he had no idea what the kid's quirk was. The parents asked how that was possible, and the doctor only answered by saying that there is a quirk inside the kid's body, but it wasn't usable and he had no idea how it functioned. Hearing that, the two heroes, who had their identities a secret, felt a bit disappointed that their kid had a useless quirk. They asked the doctor to write him down as quirkless, so that he doesn't keep his dream of becoming a hero while not having a quirk to aid him so he doesn't get hurt. The family left the doctor's office with the parents complimenting their daughter's quirk while Toshinori, the father of the family, had his hand on Izuku's head without saying a word. They entered the car, and Izuku was obviously on the verge of tears after finding out about his lack of unique power and quirk. His sister looked at him with a hint of disgust and disappointment in her eyes, starting to feel like her twin has turned useless now that he has no usable quirk. They went to their home, and each kid went to their own room. Toshinori followed his daughter to her room and started talking to her about heroes and gave her as much confidence and support as she needed so she wouldn't give up on her dream. Izuku, on the other hand, was watching a video about all of his favorite heroes altogether. His mother suddenly entered the room only to see her kid sobbing. "Mom, do you think I could be a hero too?" he stuttered while looking at his mother. Inko couldn't do anything but hug her 4-year-old son with some tears in her eyes. "I'm sorry, Izuku, I'm really sorry," she said. "But that's not what I wanted to hear." The kid thought to himself. That night, Toshinori and Inko's friends, whom Izuku and Izumi had seen as their uncles and aunts, visited their home. Those friends were none other than the heroes that were aware of their secret identities, which aren't a lot. In their home were the heroes Midnight, Eraserhead, Present Mike, Nizu, and Grand Torino. All those heroes were aware of Toshinori and Inko's identities. The heroes celebrated the entire night with little Izumi, but Izuku never joined them and stayed in his room. When noticing that his favorite baby nephew wasn't in the room, Eraserhead, also known as Shota Aizawa, went to his room to check up on him. He entered the room and looked around, seeing all the figurines and posters of heroes all around the kid's room, and his eyes fell on a picture that the kid had beside his bed of Izuku with his entire family, aunt and uncles. He smiled and then turned around to look at his nephew, noticing him playing with his 𝗕𝗏𝗄𝗏 figure to fight the fake villains he had scattered in the ground. 𝗕𝗏𝗄𝗏. "He's definitely strong enough to beat those villains, isn't he?" said Shota, catching the attention of his nephew. "Uncle Shota!" Izuku shouted as he jumped at his uncle. Shota smiled a little at his nephew, then put him down and sat next to him. "Isn't 𝗕𝗏𝗄𝗏 so cool and amazing?" asked Izuku. "Yeah, he's the best," said Aizawa. "I hate that beach," he thought to himself. Aizawa then sat down with his nephew, watching him talking about all his favorite heroes and his future dream of becoming a hero himself. "You are going to become a great hero, Izuku, even without a quirk." Third-person POV. The day after the family learned of their son's lack of a quirk, they took him and his sister to the playground so they could spend their day with their best friend, Katsuki Bakugo, who they refer to as Kachan. Izumi and Bakugo were playing on the swings while Izuku was sitting in the sandbox thinking about what he and his uncle had talked about the day before. When Izuku told Aizawa about feeling sad for not being able to become a hero for his lack of power, his uncle gave him a long speech about how he didn't need any unique power to become a hero and that he could achieve that with only hard work. Back to the playground, Izumi informed Bakugo about how her brother had no functional quirk and told him how mad she was that he was still trying to become a hero. She didn't care what happened to her brother, but what she was angry about was the boy trying to become a hero without a quirk while she was the one with a strong ability and the only one between the two that deserved to be a hero. Bakugo seemed to agree with the girl. He, just like her, had a strong quirk, so his other childhood friend not having a useful quirk made him useless in his eyes. The two came up with a plan to bully the kid until he gave up as a way to put him in his place. The bullying continued for many years with the two followed by the entire school bullying Izuku, yet never once did they hear him saying that he was going to give up on his dream of becoming a hero. The two alongside their puny sidekicks abused and hurt the kid non-stop, some hurting him even more than his sister and friend in various inhuman ways. Izuku's aunts and uncles also stopped visiting to make sure that they didn't attract any of their enemies to the kids, something that Toshinori and Inko asked them for. That didn't stop them from sending their nephew and niece some letters and gifts from time to time. On Izuku's 5th birthday, Aizawa sent him a binding cloth/capture weapon similar to his after the kid complimented it. With the weapon was a letter where Aizawa told him that he's hoping that one day he'll teach him and aid him in becoming a great hero. Izuku's parents slowly started distancing him away from them and started neglecting him. Toshinori did that the moment he learned about the kid's lack of a quirk, while Inko started doing that months later. The kid was living between neglect Ion in his house and bullying in his school, and it seemed that no one around him was supportive of his dream. A part of him wanted to give up, but what stopped him from doing so was his uncle Shota. His life wasn't the best in any way, shape, or form. When the kid was just 10 years old, his parents completely stopped caring for him, even forgetting to give him any money or provide him with food, which led to the kid starting to work and able to get money. He had some small jobs such as babysitting and helping in cleaning other people's houses to get the money he needed. That also seemed to help in the kid's growth as his body was becoming more buff every day with how much he worked. Even with all that work and stress, the kid didn't fall behind in his school, getting the highest marks, even if it meant his sister and childhood friend both beat him up for it. He noticed that all the gifts that his uncles and aunt used to send him were given only to Izumi, which saddened him, thinking that his beloved uncles and aunt also had forgotten about him. He never gave up, though. He was going to fight the entire world if it meant that he was going to achieve his dream of becoming a hero that everyone looked up to. He continued suffering until he was 15, when he and the duo were about to graduate middle school. His teacher told the entire class about him applying to U, the most known hero school and the hardest for anyone to be accepted into. When they heard that, Izumi and Bakugo ended up beating the kid for hours straight to teach him a lesson, but what truly broke him was both of them telling him to take a swan dive from the roof of a building and pray to be born with a better quirk in his next life. Ignoring them, the kid left the school and started waking to his home, thinking about what his sister and friend said. On his way, the kid was attacked by a villain who suffocated him for many minutes, only to end up saved by his father, All Might, whom he really didn't even know was his father. After saving him, Izuku followed the hero, going as far as jumping on him while he jumped away from the scene. After landing on a roof, All Might had a chat with the kid about hero work, but when the kid asked him if he was able to become a hero without a quirk, All Might rejected his child, telling him that becoming a hero without a quirk would end up taking the kid's life away. He then left the roof with the monster captured and contained in a bottle to give him to the police station. Izuku was left behind on the rooftop, completely shattered. Third-person POV Izuku was left behind on the rooftop, completely shattered and saddened with what the #1 hero had told him. He fell to his knees as his head repeated everything that he's been told since childhood. He felt like he was dying as he looked at the cliff of the roof. His brain then stopped at what his sister and friend had told him a few hours ago, and tears started forming in his eyes, but he held it back. He went to the cliff and looked down, but he couldn't jump. He didn't want to jump. That would just prove Izumi and Kachan right about him being useless and pathetic. He sighed and sat down at the cliff and started drawing another suit. Since childhood, he loved drawing suits for pro heroes just as much as he loved taking notes about them. He was drawing a new suit for the newly graduated hero, Hawks, thinking that the hero had no way of protecting himself with his jacket and shirt. After finishing his drawing, Izuku sighed and thought to himself, "Why do I even do this? It's not like Mr. Hawks will see it." He then left the rooftop and walked back to his house. He entered only to find the house completely empty. He shrugged it off, knowing that his parents probably took their little princess shopping for like the third time that week. Entering his room, Izuku looked around at the nearly empty room. He had only a few figurines of his uncles and aunt. None of the books he had when he was younger were there, in fact not even the bookshelf. Same goes with his laptop and posters which he had to sell to get more money to get food when there was nothing home. He laid on his bed that no longer had his favorite all-might bed cover, instead a plain white one that he had in his closet, which now also contains only a few shirts and pants that still fit him. It's not that he gained weight. The kid looked like a literal skeleton. It's just that he grew a little and became taller, and his parents didn't care enough to take him shopping. Not having anything to do, he went to sleep, which didn't take long as he fell asleep once his head touched the pillow. It was barely a few seconds later when he opened his eyes only to find himself in a white room, which seemed to be empty until he heard two voices calling him. "You're finally here," shouted what seemed to be a young adult. Izuku looked in that direction only to find a guy with a well-built frame yet a short height. He had spiky, blonde hair, blue eyes, and 2 whisker markings on each of his cheeks. He was wearing a belt with short black pants, regular sandals, and a cloak. He was also wearing a forehead protector with 2 intersecting slashes on it. The guy seemed pretty nice and optimistic. Next to him stood a guy who looked the exact opposite of the first. The other guy had gray eyes and bushy black hair, the sides of which are shaven and blonde in color. He also had a tattoo of the Roman numeral 9 under his left eye, a pair of piercings on his right eyebrow, and stud earrings. He was wearing a violet infinity scarf and belt, white overalls with his chest exposed, and a black vest trench coat. "About time, couldn't you have come here like a few years ago?" asked the emo-looking guy. "Excuse me, I don't even know where I am. Also, who are you guys?" answered Izuku while looking around, trying to find somewhere to leave the room he was in. "Well, someone has an attitude. Anyways, hi, I'm Boruto Uzumaki. This is my brother, Kawaki Uzumaki," said the blonde guy while pointing on his brother when he mentioned the latter's identity. The other guy only rolled his eyes, and Izuku immediately thought about Bakugo. "Hey, don't compare me to that explosive beach," spat out the guy recently identified as Kawaki. "Wait, what? Did you read my mind or something? Is that your quirk?" muttered the younger kid. "No, we're just in your mind right now so we can easily hear your thoughts," said the gold-haired kid. Izuku looked at him with confusion, and the 2 men sat down with him following suit. The golden-haired then started talking. "Long ago, before this world saw what you guys refer to as quirks, all the people around the globe used what we refer to as chakra. Chakra is basically the life force that we have within our physical body and our spiritual one. Back in my day, we were shinobi, ninja. Some evil alien gods were trying to steal the chakra from our planet and also wanted to take revenge because of one of their members called Kaguya Otsutsuki betrayed another one, Ishiki Otsutsuki, who was a higher member of their clan. Ishiki took Kawaki here as a vessel while another Otsutsuki took me as their vessel, 𝗵𝗃𝗄𝗃 Otsutsuki. Ishiki managed to completely take control of Kawaki's body, and he used it to his advantage to murder our father, Naruto Uzumaki, and his best friend, Sasuke Uchiha. After that, I fought Kawaki for days straight to defeat him and end Ishiki. After Kawaki got a little control over his senses, we went towards Ishiki's old hiding place and came up with a plan. We together used the powers of the 10 Tails, which is a beast that's made out of chakra, to cast a jutsu that allowed us to wipe away everyone's memory on Earth, making them forget about chakra. We then used that beast's power with the God Tree, which is a tree that the Otsutsukis plant on planets to seek that planet's chakra and make a chakra fruit that would provide the Otsutsuki that eats it with great nearly endless power, to seek away all the chakra that was on our planet and around it so that it'll no longer be used by the evil. But doing that required a lot, so as a way of payment, we both sacrificed our lives. Since then, our souls, alongside all the chakra, were stuck in that fruit, and now here we are. Izuku was utterly astonished, wanting to ask a lot about that past, but there was one thing that was confusing him more than anything. But why am I here? How are you able to talk to me? And why do you even want to talk to me out of all people? Asked Izuku. One more thing. Before we died, me and my girlfriend, Sarada Uchiha, and Sasuke's daughter had a son that we didn't take his chakra to, so he could continue taking care of the world in secret. We watched over him and saw his entire life until he passed away. Answered Boruto. Izuku felt sad for the guy. Seeing his son die wouldn't be easy, but he still didn't understand why he stood in front of those two dead shinobi. I'm sorry for that, but I still don't get what this has to do with me. Kawaki and Boruto looked at each other, and Izuku saw a smirk appearing on both their faces. Plus, because you, Izuku Yagi, are Boruto's grandson's reincarnation. Excuse me? Reincarnation? As in like the process where the soul of a deceased individual is reborn in a new living vessel. Is that even possible? Why me? Is this a joke or something? What does that exactly mean? Izuku ranted as the two older boys in front of him looked at him with confusion and shock as to how he still hadn't passed out from all his muttering. Okay, enough. Spat Kawaki. Oh, was I mumbling? Sorry, I'm just shocked and confused about this whole chakra and reincarnation thing. Izuku asked. Yeah, it's okay. Now, let's continue what we were talking about, said Boruto, and Izuku nodded. After our death, our souls remained to keep an eye around the world waiting for the moment that my son would be reincarnated. A person that would be able to hold all the chakra we have taken from this world and the ones around it, said Boruto. If I am the reincarnation of your son that is supposed to be able to hold all the chakra that you guys have taken away, why wasn't I informed of this when I was younger? I could have been able to protect a lot of people from Bakugo and Izumi's bullying for not having strong quirks with this power, said Izuku. Because we weren't sure if you deserved this power, said an unfamiliar voice that seemed to come out of nowhere. Izuku looked at the direction he heard it from, and in front of him stood two more men. The first had yellow blonde, spiky hair and blue eyes and 3 pairs of whiskers on his cheeks which greatly resembled Boruto. He was wearing a white cape with a red flame pattern around the hem, held together by a red rope, and had the sentence, 7th Hokage, written vertically down the back. Underneath this, he was wearing a black sweatshirt with orange stripes, black pants, and sandals. The other guy, who seemed just as emo as Kawaki, had black eyes and spiky black hair with a blue tint. His hair was long and had hung over his face as bangs. He was wearing a black cloak with purple lining and a gray, long-sleeved, collared shirt, over which he was wearing a periwinkle vest. He was also wearing black pants, a purple belt, and a dark gray fingerless glove. "𝗲𝗲," chirped the blonde-headed man with a toothy smile. "𝗲𝗲." Both Boruto and Kawaki answered. Well, that wasn't so shocking. Boruto and this guy look like twins except Boruto is short. But Kawaki, yeah, that's weird. He thought to himself. I'm not short. We don't look like twins. That's my kid and he lacks my 3rd pair of whiskers, you know. The only weird thing here is you forgetting that we can hear your thoughts. The 3 men said together, and Izuku was barely able to hold back his laughter at their reactions. Are we done with this family reunion? We have work to do, said the mysterious new man. Yeah, team, calm down, said the blonde guy. Hello, I'm Naruto Uzumaki, Boruto, and Kawaki's father. That is Sasuke Uchiha, my childhood best friend, biggest rival and ally. Explained Naruto. Oh cool, I'm Izuku Yagi, answered the youngest kid in the room. Yeah, we know, we've been looking after you since you were born, answered Sasuke. Oh well, that's definitely creepy, said Izuku. Not at all, we did that because we also were waiting for my grandson's reincarnation with Boruto and Kawaki, and we've been watching over you to check whether you truly deserve this great power, answered Sasuke. Izuku didn't know what to answer as he only nodded in understanding. We noticed how optimistic yet stubborn you were. You hold the true heart of a hero, 𝗕𝗶𝗍𝗶, continued Naruto. Izuku looked at him in understanding towards the stubbornness and optimism of the kid and confusion towards what he said at the end of his sentence. We too are here to watch over you and train you to control the chakra that you'll be receiving soon after you consume the chakra fruit, said Sasuke. But am I going to be able to actually control this much power? Boruto said that it's the power that the entire world had. Wondered Izuku. As 𝗵𝗃 Uchiha Uzumaki's reincarnation, it's your fate to do this. Your quirk alone is enough proof to show that using this power is your destiny. My quirk. But the doctor said that it's ineffective and useless. It's not useless. 𝗵𝗃, my grandson, married the girl that you guys know as the person with the first quirk. Those quirks are nothing but the world's way to not keep humans defenseless after they lost all chakra. When my grandson and his wife had kids, they inherited their mother's quirk ability but couldn't mold any chakra, and since then we've been waiting for one of their descendants for my grandson to finally reincarnate as. Explained Naruto. Okay, so you're telling me that I'm not only destined to carry some kind of powerful chakra that has been wiped out since decades ago, but I'm also the descendant of the first person with a quirk. My head is spinning. Also, what does that have to do with my personal quirk? Your quirk, from what me and Naruto have understood, allows you to mold quirks just like chakra. So let's say I was able to absorb 𝗔𝗂𝗧𝗏. You are able to absorb any quirk getting used at you as long as you are able to see it. You won't take the fire quirk, but you'll 𝗧𝗂𝗁𝗃 it in your body and use as much as you absorbed. Explained Sasuke. Izuku blinked in shock and confusion but nodded his head, showing his understanding. Okay, great. Now that you understood, me and Kawaki will leave you with them to train while we take a break from having to watch over you since you were born. Boruto said as he and his brother disappeared away. Now, how about you eat this chakra fruit and show us how strong you are, green boy? Said Naruto. Izuku stood still before slightly nodding his head. He hoped that he wouldn't regret that choice. After Boruto and Kawaki disappeared from the room, Izuku turned around and gave a small smile towards Naruto and Sasuke. Okay, so, am I supposed to consume the chakra fruit now? Asked the confused green-haired kid. Oh no, you're still so weak to handle all that power. Answered Naruto with a smile. 𝗕𝗁𝗄, thought the child to himself. This fruit contains the chakra of an entire planet, including its godlike humans and beings, those being the Otsutsuki. Your body is barely developed enough to handle all that power. In fact, your body is barely strong enough to handle a fraction of only Kagaya's power. Said Sasuke. Kagaya. Said Izuku while tilting his head in confusion. This is going to be long. How about we just send you our memories so you can understand everything? Asked Naruto. Before Izuku could answer, Naruto and Sasuke had their hands on his head, and within a second, the boy passed out. He felt his mind going blank before all the memories of the two older men were given to him. He opened his eyes and looked up at the two, but all he was able to say was, "Whoa." So, Izuku, are you ready to train so you could control this power and use it for the greater good? Asked Naruto. It's not like he has a choice. Thought Sasuke to himself. Yeah. Will I be able to do all those cool jutsus and powers and stuff? Said Izuku with stars in his eyes. At some point, yeah, but for now we have to help you even use your own chakra, answered Sasuke. My own chakra? I have chakra inside my body now. Asked Izuku. Obviously, as 𝗵𝗃's reincarnation you were born with his chakra. In fact, I'm shocked that you still haven't unlocked a Sharingan or used any chakra accidentally, answered Naruto. Cool, said Izuku with awe. The two older men smiled, liking the kid's personality, which reminded them of Naruto himself and Boruto. Okay, enough chit-chatting, let's start training, said Sasuke as Izuku nodded in excitement. Naruto flicked his fingers as the entire area around him. Izuku saw as the room changed into a full forest with trees and a river in awe. How did you do that? Asked Izuku. It's your mindscape and we are inside your brain, so changing its appearance isn't hard, said Naruto. Izuku only nodded and stood still, waiting for his training to start. Okay, first thing first, we have to start unlocking your chakra as it's obviously locked away inside your body, said Sasuke. How do we do that? Wondered Izuku. Easy. answered Sasuke as he disappeared. Izuku looked around only to feel someone's hand on his back. He turned around and saw Sasuke, but before he could ask what the older man was doing, he saw Sasuke's hand with a blue aura around it. He looked at Sasuke with confusion before falling to his knees, feeling pain all over his body. When he looked up at Naruto and Sasuke to check what's wrong with them, he saw them both with smiles on their faces. He just forced your chakra to unlock and flow through your body. Make sure that you don't keep it out of control unless you want to die, cause this is your life force after all, said Naruto. Izuku's eyes widened. I could die, he thought to himself. He wasn't sure what to do with the power leaking out of his powers. All he was able to do was freak out. After minutes passed, Izuku finally realized something. If he kept freaking out, he won't be able to do anything, so he tried to do the complete opposite. He sat down on the grass cross-legged and took a deep breath to calm down his nerves and keep his power under control. A few seconds later, Sasuke and Naruto saw the kid's chakra calming down and moving around his body in a spiraling movement. He's smart, said Naruto. Unlike you, 𝗕𝗶𝗍, answered Sasuke. Naruto faked feeling hurt and looked at his friend with fake tears. You broke my soft heart, Sasuke-kun, he said. And all Sasuke did was roll his eyes and look back at the kid. They saw his chakra slowly disappearing back to his body as he opened his eyes and stared at them. Oh, that was easy, I guess, said Izuku. Yeah, that was the easy part. Now let's start the real training, answered Naruto. Oh, we haven't started the real training yet, asked the kid. Oh kid, that was nothing, answered Sasuke, and Izuku gulped. The two men trained Izuku for days straight in simple chakra exercises to help him control his power as fast as possible. When he asked to leave so he could at least go to school, they explained that he didn't have to worry as the time that passes in his mindscape doesn't pass in the real world. They did explain that his body state would be the same both in the mindscape and in the real world. Izuku knew that he was going to school exhausted, but he knew that it was worth it. Sasuke and Naruto trained the kid, a training that would most likely end up killing any other person, but the kids will kept him going, which reminded them of the blonde man. His mindscape was used to train him in using ninjutsu, taijutsu, genjutsu, and even weapons training. Naruto and Sasuke were the ones responsible for training him in chakra control/molding and in usage of basic ninjutsu and genjutsu. Boruto and Kawaki trained him in using weapons from kunai to shuriken to swords with the help of Sasuke. Naruto wasn't one to use weapons from what he learned. He wasn't the brightest student out there, but he was able to master the basic jutsus that were previously taught in the Academy of Ninja, and he was able to spar in taijutsu with the older four males, same with weapon fighting. When it came to ninjutsu, he didn't have the time to learn much, but what Naruto and Boruto made sure he learned was the Rasengan, which the kid was very glad he got to learn. Sasuke only taught him some easy elemental jutsus, but just like Naruto, he wasn't as interested in using them as he preferred using the Rasengan, which is a spiraling ball made out of chakra. Kawaki and Boruto learned that after Momoshiki took Boruto's body as a vessel, his DNA was passed to his son, which developed the ability of creating chakra weapons, which they decided to teach Izuku how to use. The kid learned the ability rather quickly, though it required a lot of chakra, and even though his amount of chakra was pretty good, it wasn't close to an Otsutsuki's since he still hadn't taken the chakra fruit. His control over his chakra wasn't the greatest for its sheer amount, but it wasn't as hard as when Naruto had to control it. The blonde-haired man had a lot more chakra when he was Izuku's age, which wasn't shocking as Naruto is half Uzumaki while Izuku was merely the reincarnation of a guy that was barely even an Uzumaki, being a hybrid between an Uzumaki, Namikaze, Hyuga, Haruno, and Uchiha. While most of his training was physical, he had calm meditation sessions so he could improve his chakra control and mental state. Izuku really liked Sasuke and was fascinated by the man's strength and saw his way of thinking was interesting, but the person he truly looked up to was Naruto. He liked the blonde's determination and optimistic personality. Outside his training, Izuku spent his life normally with the neglect of his parents and the constant bullying in his school. He showed none of his powers so he wouldn't blow his cover nor expose his secret. The changing moment in the child's life was 5 months before the UA entrance exam. He was sitting in his room when he heard his sister scream from the living room. He left his room to check what happened only to find All Might the #1 hero in his house alongside the heroine Magneto. He hid and watched in silence as he saw the heroine removing her mask only to see his mother. Then smoke came out of All Might's body, and again, Izuku was shocked to find his father in the smoke. Izuku stared at Izumi and found no piece of shock on her face. So she knew. He wondered to himself. Izumi, you are finally old enough for us to tell you the truth, spoke 𝗵𝗃𝗁. Truth? Asked the blonde-haired girl. Yes, the truth behind my quirk. Everyone thinks that my quirk is super strength, but what it truly is a stockpiling quirk called One for All. One for All is a quirk that has been passed from user to user for many decades, and I was lucky enough to inherit the quirk from your mom's mother, Nana Shimura. I am the current and 8th user of this quirk. I was quirkless before this power, and even though you do have a quirk, I believe that you are the best person for me to pass this power to, as you have shown that you have the soul of a hero, said All Might. Izuku felt his head going blank as darkness consumed his surroundings. He unconsciously entered his mindscape, and the older 4 males immediately rushed his way. He has a transferable quirk. He could have given it to me. He was quirkless. Why did he treat me like that then? Why? Screamed Izuku at no one in particular. Boruto rushed and held the boy in his hands as the latter began sobbing. Naruto, Sasuke, and Kawaki followed Boruto, and they also tried to comfort the teen. When that was done, Izuku fell to his knees as he felt pain surrounding his eyes. Plus, when Sasuke raised his face to face his own, his eyes widened as he saw the kid with 2 red eyes, each containing a tomo. After the teen awakened his dojutsu, his training became even harder in order to master this new added power. He hated activating it a lot as all it did was remind him that his father considered him a failure by giving his power to his sister instead of himself, but he still trained with it knowing that it would be a great asset for him. With his Sharingan, Izuku learned how to perform low-level genjutsu that would allow him to mess with his enemies' minds. He also knew that it could be used to help him in his jutsu training, though he didn't focus much on that part. He also started learning simple low-level fuinjutsu/sealing jutsu with the help of Naruto. The Uzumaki were the best clan in the Shinobi world back in the time, and as the head of the Uzumaki clan, he inherited all of the clan's jutsus. The older 4 men started to notice one thing about the kid, and that was the fact that he wouldn't be able to fight against anyone due to his lack of physical strength. With his training, he obviously was physically stronger than any normal person, but any person with a body-enhancing/strength quirk would easily defeat him in that category. In order to solve that, the 4 decided to train him more in molding his chakra and focusing it in a way that gave him more physical strength. The 4 offered to train him, but he refused instead, wanting to be trained by someone who relied on that in their fighting style. The best options he saw were Sakura Haruno and Sarada Uchiha, his past life's grandmother and mother, respectively. When he asked the 4 if he could somehow summon the 2 women's souls, they answered with a yes, but Boruto and Kawaki had something else in mind. Are you sure you want to do that? Asked Boruto, faking a sad tone. Yeah, answered Izuku, though it sounded more of a question. Okay then, goodbye, kid, said Kawaki as he gave the teenager a smile. Naruto and Sasuke watched with confusion while the youngest boy in the room was beginning to get worried. Wait, what do you mean goodbye? He asked. In order to summon 2 souls, you need a lot of chakra and you aren't in control of your chakra nor do you have enough to do it, so instead Boruto and I will give away our souls to bring Sakura and Sarada's in return, explained Kawaki. Naruto and Sasuke looked at him with confusion. That wasn't true. As existing chakra souls, they could easily teleport another soul to where they are. When it hit them, the 2 men looked at each other and understood what it was, a prank. What? No, I don't want that, screamed Izuku. It's too late, Izuku. We already performed the jutsu needed. There's no turning back now. For what could? Said Boruto with a soft voice. The 2 men slowly disappeared, turning to dust. Izuku, seeing that, ran towards where their souls previously were. He stood there with what seemed to be ashes as he felt his heart shatter. No. He slowly sobbed. Oh, too far. Though Sasuke, no, screamed the green-haired teen. Sasuke watched in horror as the kid's eyes changed, now containing 2 tomo inside of each of them. Izuku then passed away from exhaustion and chakra draining. Seeing the teen's reaction, Kawaki and Boruto left their hiding spot and appeared in front of the other 3 males. They ended up scolded by Sasuke and Naruto for what they had done. When Izuku woke up, he also fought with them for their prank after hugging them, of course. When he went to sleep to let his body rest so that he could start training with Sarada and Sakura the day after, the 4 men sat together in his mindscape discussing his training and what happened. "Well, he's definitely gotten really close to you too. I've never seen him break down that bad, not even if it involved his family," said Sasuke. "Yeah, he really cares about you guys. He probably considers you 2 family at this point," continued Naruto. "Yeah, I guess so," said Boruto with a smile. Kawaki didn't engage in the conversation, but he couldn't hide the smile he had when he heard that word family. When Izuku woke up the next day, the first thing he did after washing up was enter his mindscape, and to his surprise, Sarada and Sakura were already there with the 4 men. Sakura and her daughter wasted no time getting to know the kid already, knowing everything they needed previously. It didn't take long before they taught him how to use monstrous strength, which is a technique that allowed them to deal a lot of damage by focusing their chakra on one part of their body. Izuku made sure to take every note possible, as that technique in its own might end up killing someone if he accidentally used so much chakra. His training with all 6 continued normally until it was a month before the UA exam. On that day, Sasuke and Naruto informed the kid that it was time he took the chakra fruit. "But why now? And am I strong enough to control it?" asked the kid. "If you want to control it, then you should take it now so that you have the time to control all of it. You won't do it in a few months or even years, but the faster you start training it, the better," said Sasuke. Izuku didn't answer back, only nodding his head, but then a question that he had for many days hit his head. "Sasuke-san, I was wondering where I could get any weapons. Kunais and shurikens can't be found anywhere. I can't just go get a sword so casually, and also explosive tags, smoke bombs, and chakra blades are literally extinct from existence," said the teen, looking at the older man in front of him. "That's what we wanted to tell you about." Back in the day when Boruto and Kawaki did their plan, they thought about every detail, including a house. For 𝗵𝗃𝗲's reincarnation, they sealed it away to make sure that no one comes near it, and now that you are here, it's yours. It's nothing crazy, just a small house with as many weapons as needed inside it. "We'll lead you there and help you unseal it," said Sarada, Sasuke's daughter, and his past life's mother. Izuku went towards the sealed-away house, and with the help of his new family, he was able to unseal it and take a look at it. Just like Sarada said, it wasn't anything crazy, but he really liked it. It was small, with 1 bedroom containing a toilet, a kitchen, a small kitchen, and a training room with a lot of weapons for the teen to train with. He finally had the life he dreamt of. After consuming the chakra fruit, Izuku was shocked to find that nothing changed to his body. Sasuke and Naruto explained to him that the power was getting used to his body. It took an entire day until Izuku felt the power rushing through his body, but luckily he knew how to keep it under control. He looked at the first mirror he could find but noticed that nothing changed, which disappointed him, as he thought he'd get some super cool transformation. The older people continued training Izuku during that time, but his training was 10 times harder now that he had to make sure not to let the excessive chakra to spill out of his body. Finally, on the day before the entrance exam, Izuku slept in peace with his new family cuddled around him in his mindscape. The second day, Izuku woke up early, getting ready and rushing towards the UA entrance exam, the first step in his hero job. He walked inside and on his way saw a girl with brown hair and big brown eyes helping his sister, who tripped on her own feet. When the girl touched Izumi's back, the blonde-haired girl started floating in the air. Izuku was astonished but didn't say anything as he headed towards the exam. The first part of the exam passed by rather quickly, as Izuku solved it in a matter of minutes. Bakugo caught him and glared at him, and once they were alone on their way to the practical part of the exam, he started talking. "Hideki, you're still trying for UA? Didn't we tell you to stop trying? Understand this, you are quirkless, useless in this society. They won't allow someone like you into a school as elite as this one," spat out the blonde-haired guy. "Are you done? Probably not, cause you never shut up. "Get out of my way, bakugo!" Izuku shot back. Bakugo wanted to reply to Izuku until he noticed that the latter called him bakugo instead of his nickname, Kachan, which was rather shocking. "Hey, that was rude, please be respectful towards the other examinees," appeared an unfamiliar voice. Izuku looked towards the direction of the voice and saw a tall and muscular guy with a wide frame with short dark blue hair. "It's none of your business either," said Izuku as he headed away from the two. Once he reached the auditorium, Present Mike, whom he used to refer to as Uncle Zashi, explained the rules of the exam. The blonde-haired hero tried as hard as possible to get the teens to cheer with him every few minutes, but it didn't work out, so he simply just explained the rules. The students had to score points by destroying villain bots with various point values. Each defeated villain bot is worth a certain amount of points, which are assigned to the bots according to their difficulty level. Point easy villains points, medium villains points, hard villains points, arena traps. Arena traps are massive villain bots scattered through the city replicas in order to trap and weed out people from getting high scores. They're not meant to be fought, which is why they're worth no points. The same guy asked about the 0 points bot and gave a speech to the hero, which replied and gave the blue-haired his answers. After the explanation, students were separated into their designated battle center for the practical test. Looking around, Izuku noticed the brown-haired girl and the blue-haired boy that he met less than an hour ago. Once the doors of the arena opened, Izuku immediately ran inside, knowing that a real battle doesn't have a countdown. Present Mike then told the other examinees to follow in and that what he was doing was the right thing. The examinees rushed into the battle arena to destroy as many robots as they can, but they were met with nothing but robot pieces scattered all around the arena. Izuku had created a chakra sword and started cutting through all the robots that he found. It took him a few minutes before he saw that there was barely any robots left. Back in the teacher's observing room, the heroes were checking the young generation and their fights. 𝗫𝗍 then gave examples about those who rely on speed, others on skill, some on focus, and most on power. He then said that the best example would be someone who uses all as the camera focused on Izuku. Izuku's entire family looked at him with either shock or joy, that being his uncles and aunt. "Zuku, why is he here? And why is he just standing there doing nothing?" asked Dinko. Why is he here? Didn't you know of your son's application to the school? Also, he's sitting as there are no more robots for him to destroy except a few that he's probably leaving for the other students," answered 𝗫𝗍 while staring at his nephew. "What? No, of course we knew, we're just shocked that he's sitting doing nothing," answered Toshinori. "But how did he get all those points?" "He's quirkless," asked All Might. "Well, from what I can see is that he's anything but quirkless. He had a glowing sword in his hand which disappeared when he finished cutting down the robots," spoke Shota Aizawa, hiding a smile. Inko and Toshinori didn't say anything and just looked back at their biological son's test. Noticing that enough time had passed, 𝗫𝗍 let out the 0 pointers, allowing it to wreak havoc on the entire arena. Izuku during that time was busy arguing with Boruto about a possible hero suit until he heard all the screams of the people around him. He opened his eyes and turned around only to find a huge robot destroying everything in its way. He didn't bother himself to try and fight it. Instead, he started walking back, waiting for the fight to end. That was until he heard a cry for help. He looked back and saw the brown-haired girl trapped underneath debris. She struggled against the weight as the robot got closer and closer. Not thinking twice, he ran towards the girl and channeled his chakra to his feet, helping him jump high enough to reach the 0 pointer's head. Instead of smashing it, though, he stabbed its control panel with his chakra sword, then cut 2 of its electricity providers. The robot stumbled back as Izuku jumped away and helped the girl stand up. "Thank you," she chirped. "You don't need to. That's what a hero would do," he answered and walked back, helping the girl with her injured foot. He could have healed her, but he knew that the school's nurse, recovery girl, was going to check on everyone either way. Also, his healing abilities weren't something to flex, as it was barely relevant. Just like he thought, the heroine arrived and healed everyone, then went towards Izuku. She asked him if he was injured after his fight, but he told her that he was in a perfect condition and that she didn't need to worry about him. After all that was done, he headed back home, happy that he's a step closer to becoming a hero. After the exam was done, Izuku started walking back home so he could continue training. He was interrupted by the honking of a car beside him. He looked in its direction only to find his parents' car. He saw the window rolling down and behind it sat his father and mother with smiles on their faces. "Izuku, where are you going alone? Hop in, let's go home," said 𝗃𝗁𝗁. "Get in that car and I'm gonna break your legs," spat Kawaki at the kid inside his mind. "No thanks, I'd rather walk," he answered his mother and walked away, not taking a glance back at his parents. "Dang Kawaki, that was harsh," said Boruto. "I know that. I really don't give a f, I hate them," answered Kawaki. "We all do," continued Naruto. Izuku didn't say anything as he headed back to his parents' house, knowing that if he went to his house instead his parents would end up trying to find him, and he preferred to not let them know where he is living. He entered the house and found his parents and sisters sitting in the living room. They looked his way and immediately stood up and rushed towards him. "Good job, Zuku," screamed 𝗃𝗁𝗁 as she hugged her son. Izuku stood still, not uttering a word nor moving in the slightest. 𝗃𝗁𝗁 let go after a few moments and stepped back to stand next to her husband and daughter. Izuku looked at his father and twin, who had the exact same hair color as her father. He saw nothing but confusion, anger, and fury in their eyes. "Where did you get that quirk from?" asked Toshinori. "I bought it from the market. I was born with it, old man," he said in a mocking tone. Izuku should really stop hanging out with Boruto. "He's staring to say old man now and I hate it," said Sarada. Boruto faked feeling hurt and both Sarada and her parents rolled their eyes. "You're not funny, Izuku. When did you get that strong quirk?" spat out Izumi. "Didn't know that you still remember my name. I feel flattered. I had this quirk since the day we both got our quirks tested. This was the same quirk that the doctor called useless," answered Izuku. "Well, what can you do with it?" asked 𝗃𝗁𝗁. "That's none of your business," he answered. "Hey, watch your language. This isn't a way to talk to your mom. We didn't raise you like this," said Toshinori, glaring at the younger boy. "You didn't raise me at all," he answered as he stepped out of the house before his family could say anything back. "What the f is wrong with him?" asked Izumi, looking at her mother, who was holding back tears. "Toshi, please go get him and see what's wrong with my baby boy," begged 𝗃𝗁𝗁. Toshinori nodded and buffed up to his all-might form and ran out of the house. He looked all around the city but didn't find a trail of his son, which started to worry him. He headed back home and dialed a number before explaining a word to his wife. "Shota, come to our home immediately and bring Hizashi and Nemuri. It's about Izuku," he said to his phone and hung up a few seconds later. "Toshi, what is wrong? Where is Izuku? Why did you call the heroes?" asked 𝗃𝗁𝗁. Toshinori didn't say anything before the doorbell rang. He opened the door and Izuku's two uncles and aunt were standing with worried expressions. "What in the world is wrong with Izuku?" asked Shota, worried for his only and most favorite nephew he had. "We can't find him anywhere. When he entered the house we questioned him about his quirk, but he responded dryly and sounded uninterested in our conversation. He then left the house and Toshi followed him but couldn't find him anywhere in the city," said 𝗃𝗁𝗁. "My nephew is missing." "Also, what do you mean, questioned him about his quirk? As his parents, aren't you supposed to already know everything Izuku, including his quirk?" questioned Aizawa. "He never told us anything about his quirk. In fact, I barely even remember talking to him the last few days," answered 𝗃𝗁𝗁, who was starting to have a headache about her son. "I'm going to check his room. Maybe he wrote anything about his quirk in a copybook similar to his hero analysis copybooks," said the pro-hero Midnight. She immediately went towards the room, not waiting for anyone to follow her nor to hear anything they had to say. She opened the door and was immediately struck with the sight in front of her. She closed the door slowly and turned around to see all of her friends surrounding the room. "𝗃𝗁𝗁, you didn't tell me you guys changed Izuku's room. I liked it. He had a lot of cute little figurines and posters and of course his All Might themed bed and closet," whined Nemuri. "What are you talking about? We didn't change Izuku's room. He's still in the room he had when he last saw you guys," shot Toshinori back. "You're kidding, right?" asked Nemuri with a hint of worry in her voice now. "No," said Izumi. Aizawa was getting irritated with the conversation, so he opened the door and was shocked to see the remains of his nephew's room. "𝗃𝗁𝗁, "Toshinori, what the F is this?" Aizawa asked. The rest looked at the room and all their eyes widened after seeing what was left inside the four walls. That's it, 4 walls. There was no bed, no closet, no posters or hero figurines, no bookshelf, no desk, and no Izuku. There was nothing but walls and wall paint that was in a very bad condition. "Izuku, what happened to your room?" mumbled Inko under her breath, though all of the other heroes and Izumi seemed to hear it. "What the F is the meaning behind this?" screamed Hisashi, glaring at Toshinori and Inko, alongside Shota and Nemuri. "Why is my nephew's room empty? Not even an animal can survive in here," asked Shota with fury obvious on his eyes. "Does it look like we know?" spat out Toshinori. They all stepped in the room but found nothing except one piece of cloth thrown at the side of the room. Hisashi went to check it out, but once he picked it up he put it behind his back, not wanting to break the heart of his best friend. "Hisashi, don't mess around, what is that?" Aizawa practically screamed. Present Mike sighed as he turned around holding the cloth in his hand. He gave it to his black-haired best friend. Aizawa, for the first time ever since his best friend Shirakumo's death, felt like his eyes were watering. "The capture scarf I sent him," said the man with teary eyes. Izuku was in his new house while his old family members were panicking over his disappearance and worrying about what had happened to him and why his room was in that state. Izuku was training hard, trying to forget his parents and the lies he saw through their eyes when they talked to him. Why the F would they just randomly try to talk to me? Did I suddenly turn useful now that I have my own power? He screamed. His new family members heard him but didn't interfere, knowing that it was the best way to deal with his emotion. Izuku felt all his anger glowing through his body. He glared at the puppet he was fighting against, its blonde hair reminding him of his sister and father. He formed a shadow clone identical to himself. The clone helped him in doing a Rasengan, which is a spiraling ball of chakra. The teens smashed the ball of chakra at the puppet, making it explode into 100 pieces. The puppet fell down and Izuku followed suit, falling to his knees. He sighed a little, then hugged his knees. He felt his eyes tearing up but didn't cry. "They don't deserve you to cry over them." He remembered Kawaki telling him months ago, referring to his shitty family members. He left the training ground and went to his room and sat down on his bed. He took out a copybook and started writing down. "Rasengan was a lot stronger while I was angry. My chakra is changing according to my emotions. I should focus more on controlling my negative emotions so that I wouldn't end up hurting anyone around me." He wrote down. He continued taking some notes for about half an hour before putting his pen and notebook away. He suddenly was teleported into his mindscape. He didn't even question what happened, as he had already gotten used to his family summoning him in. When he questioned why he was there, they just told him that they wanted to spend some time with him, making the teenager smile, a genuine smile that his old parents hadn't seen since he was 4. The next day, Izuku spent the entire day training and awaiting his acceptance letter. Back in UA, all the teachers were in Nizu's room discussing Izuku. "You can't accept him into UA, Nizu, that's dangerous," argued Toshinori. "I don't get it, Toshinori, why are you so mad about your own son getting accepted to the best school in the country?" answered Nizu. "Because he randomly entered the exam with some weird quirk. He might be on All for One's side for all we might know," said All Might. "Izuku was never quirkless, remember? The doctor told you that he had a quirk that didn't work, which none of us had ever heard of. The doctor probably said that because he didn't know how it functions. We all know how smart Izuku is. He probably learned how it works without the help of the doctor," interfered Nemuri. "Well, if that's the case, why in the world didn't he tell us?" shot back Inko. "That I don't know. It's really weird, and I don't really think we can know unless Izuku himself tells us," answered Nemuri. Aizawa and Hisashi didn't say anything. Aizawa was still shattered after noticing his nephew leaving his scarf behind, and Hisashi just wanted to support his best friend. "I've already taken my decision. Izuku Yagi is going to attend this school. He'll be a part of Class 1A under the teaching of Aizawa." Nizu spoke. The rest of the heroes knew better than to argue with the short white hybrid. Back to Izuku, he was sitting down in his room meditating. He suddenly heard his doorbell ring and he went to check out who it was. Once he opened the door, he couldn't find anyone, but he noticed a piece of paper sitting on the ground in front of him. He took it and saw the symbol of UA on the paper. He smiled a little and entered the house, ready to see whether his application was accepted or not. "Wait, how did they find the house?" asked Boruto. "Are you stupid?" He gave an application paper to Nizu, which included where he lives. Shot back Sarada. "Ouch, Sarada, how could you say that to the love of your life?" said Boruto again while faking feeling hurt. Everyone else rolled their eyes at the blonde's childish argument. Izuku entered his room and sat down on his bed and instantly opened the letter. A small circular metal piece fell down on his bed and a hologram appeared in front of him. The hologram was of Nizu, the principal of UA. The entire hologram was of Nizu congratulating the kid of his outstanding performance. At the end of the speech, Nizu informed him that he gained the most points between all the competitors, both because of the robots he defeated and points for the people he saved. "Izuku Yagi, due to your fabulous performance, we have decided that you are to be a part of our school. You'll find your PVC dorm card in this letter. You'll be a part of Class 1A, UA welcomes you." And with that the hologram ended. Izuku's entire family cheered for him. He felt overwhelmed with all the joy as he jumped on his family in a hug, making them fall back. "Good job, Izuku, we're proud of you," said Sasuke with an unusual smile. "Make sure to teach those but faces a lesson," added Kawaki. "Thank you guys, and yeah, I will," answered Izuku. That was the first step of his new life. After his acceptance into the school, Izuku took it easy with training so he could focus more on revising everything he needed to know about the school and its program. His new family congratulated him for his acceptance, and while his old family members tried to find him, yet they failed miserably. Once it was his first day, Izuku was completely dressed by dawn so he could go for a walk and reach UA in time. It didn't take him long before reaching the school, only to get lost immediately. "Where am I supposed to find Class 1A? whined Izuku. It took him about 10 minutes before reaching his classroom with wide eyes. "This door is huge. What kind of giants do they have in here?" "Bijus," awed Izuku. He opened the door, excited to see who his classmates were, but he couldn't finish his joyful moment before finding Izumi and Bakugo arguing with the dark blue-headed guy. Once the door was opened, Izuku saw the guy appear in front of him with inhuman speed. The gut then suddenly bowed down. "I apologize for my actions and tone the first time we met. You have shown a hero heart that I don't even have," said the guy. Izuku was taken back by the guy's overreaction that he was barely able to utter any word. Hey, chill dude, it's nothing big. I actually was pretty rude. You didn't lie. Let's open up a new page. I'm Izuku Yagi. Just call me Izuku," said Izuku with a smile. "Nice to meet you, Izuku-san. I'm 𝗕𝗫𝗍𝗍. Izuku wanted to tell him to drop the san but was interrupted by a familiar brown hair rushing towards him. "Hey, it's you. The guy that saved me. Thank you for that. I'm Ochako Yururika," the girl practically screamed. Izuku smiled back and stocked out his hand for a handshake, which the girl gladly accepted. "I'm Izuku Yagi. Just call me Izuku," he said. "Oh, okay, Izuku, but isn't Yagi the last name of Izumi there? Are you guys twins? Your names are pretty similar too," wondered the girl. "Yeah, but I'd rather not be associated with her. We don't have the best sibling bond out there," he shot back. Yururika and Ida heard that and felt confused as to why that is, but decided not to interfere with the guy's personal life. "If you're here to make friends, then it's better you go home," came the voice of a guy from the corner of the room. The entire class, including Izuku and his two new peers, looked towards the voice and found a guy in a caterpillar-looking guy. Izuku mumbled a "tc" after seeing his beloved uncle that he thought had forgotten about him. Aizawa then stood in front of the entire class while everyone sat in their chairs looking at the black-haired man. "I'm Shota Aizawa. I'm going to be your teacher this year." The entire class started mumbling about whether they knew the hero or not, which was starting to give the man a headache. "Okay, enough mumbling. Get dressed and follow me to the field. We'll be having a quirk apprehension test so I can judge your quirks and check if you are capable of becoming heroes," said Aizawa. Most of the class started complaining, But Izawa gave no mind and went to the field with Izuku and a bunch of other students following him. Izawa asked Bakugo to take a ball and use his quirk to shoot it as far as possible. Bakugo did as told, and Izawa showed the class the results. 705. 2 meter, screamed a blonde-haired kid. That looks like fun. I wanna try. Screamed back a girl with pink skin and alien features. Fun. You have 3 years to become heroes. Do you think you'll just be playing around? This test consists of many parts, and whoever comes in last place is immediately expelled. If you have any complaints, pack up and go home. The students wanted to argue, but the last sentence shut all of them up. Great, now let's begin, said Izawa. The first game was a 150-meter dash, where Izuku ended up scoring first, followed by Ida. He had focused his chakra on his feet to give him a boost and score on top, which enraged Bakugo after the green-haired kid defeated him. The second test was grip strength, where he scored using his chakra to enhance his strength and get a 999 kilogram, which Izawa considered utterly destroying the device. Behind him came a guy called Shoji with 540 for a score. The third obstacle was standing long jump, which Izuku easily topped as it was part of his basic ninja training. The fourth part of the exam was repeated side steps, which Izuku at first had no idea how to pass but then decided to use his shadow clones to keep pushing him forward and backward while he focused enough chakra on his feet to move. The fifth test was again the ball throw, which Izuku was extremely excited for as he was always the last in his past school in that specific exercise. The best score was undoubtedly Yrurika's as she used her zero-gravity quirk, which led to the ball reaching infinity. Izumi tried her ball pitch using his one-for-all quirk, but for some reason as she threw the ball, her quirk failed. Shota reveals that he erased her quirk, leading to some of the class finding his identity as Eraserhead. Once everyone was done, Izawa called Izuku to step in and take his shot, which Izuku gladly did without hesitation. He took a deep breath, and chakra started flowing into his hand to the point where it was glowing a slight blue color. He shot the ball into space, and it was not seen by anyone around him. The sheer strength that the ball was thrown with caused a small shockwave, which pushed back most of the students and made Izawa stumble a little. The 𝗕𝗏𝗯𝗹𝗃 in Izawa's hand broke and continued counting for minutes straight, so Izawa put him in second place after Yrurika. After some more games, the results were shown to the entire students, and to no one's surprise Izuku scored first after getting the top mark in all the games: sit-ups, seated toe touch, long distance run, except the one Yrurika scored higher on. The results angered Bakugo and Izumi. They rushed towards Izuku, trying to make him confess how he obtained such a strong quirk. Izawa was going to stop both of them with his capture scarf, but before he could do that, he saw two Izukus pop out of nowhere and hold the two angry teens in their place, deeming them unable to move. "You two are annoying as hell," he mumbled. All Might, who was observing the rest from behind a wall, was shocked as he took a step back, crushing a small piece of wood in the process. Izuku heard the noise and looked at its direction only to find All Might. He glared at him and then walked back to his classmates. The clones dismissed, allowing the two to move freely, but Izuku shot another glare at them. Izawa then told everyone that their test was done, and when they asked him about the expelled student, he just confessed that he lied and that it was a truck so that they could do their best during the exam. After the tests that the class did, Izumi was taken to the nurse's office. Izawa thought it was a good idea to make Izuku aid her in going to her office. Izuku did as told, but while his sister tried to approach him to try and know the truth about his power, he completely ignored her. The day after, the class was sat down, each one in their place in peace, until the doors suddenly opened. "I am here, walking in like a hero," screamed the number one hero. When the students saw him, they all erupted in chaos, talking about the hero. "You can go back to when you weren't here," mumbled Izuku under his breath, which made the people in his mindscape erupt in laughter. "Welcome to the most important class at UA High. Think of it as hero ing 1v1. Here you will learn the basics of being a pro hero. And today's training is 2vs2 trial battle," explained the hero. The entire class was glad about the choice as they could finally get to use their quirks in real battle. Izuku was sitting with a smirk on his face. "One of the keys of being a hero is looking good," added All Might. A bunch of drawers with bright yellow numbers from 1 to 21 then suddenly appeared beside All Might. These were designed for you based on the forms you were given by the school, to fit your quirks, before school started. Costumes! Shouted most of the classroom. Get dressed and meet me in training ground B, said All Might, receiving a yes sir back from the classroom. The entire class were dressed in their costumes as they walked towards the training ground. Everyone on them with their unique costumes that exactly fit their quirks. Hello heroes in training. Where is young Izuku Yagi? Screamed All Might. Oh, Yagi said that he's gonna follow us. He had to do something real quick, from what I know, said a red-headed guy called Kirishima. I'm here, said Izuku. The entire class looked at him and were confused about how he looked. All Might expected Izuku to be dressed in the same hero costume that he and Inko helped him make when he was younger. It consisted of a full-body green jumpsuit. It had a headpiece which consisted of notable long ears which highly resemble All Might's hair, along with white teeth like a respirator, which resembled All Might's smile. Instead, Izuku was dressed in black baggy pants with many pockets with white detailing all around the said pockets. Tight black shirt with 9 white magatama around its collar. Also with it he wore a necklace which was made from 10 white magatama. Above that was a black cape with a white sun and moon symbols. The symbols were a sign of respect to Naruto and Sasuke alongside Boruto and Kawaki, which each resembled the sun and moon respectively. Cool costume, Yagi bro, said Kaminari, a boy taller than Izuku by a few inches and with bright yellow hair. Thanks Denki-kun, but just call me Izuku. Shot back the teen, which the other guy only nodded to. All Might watched the entire scene with confusion but shook his head, trying not to think about why his son had that drastic change in his costume. Anyways, you all look good, but let's start now. Today's training is going to take place inside buildings, as there are a lot of crimes that happen inside even if the media doesn't focus much on those. I'll be splitting you guys into teams of 2. 2 teams will be against each other. The villains will be hiding a missile somewhere in the building and the heroes must try to stop their wicked plan. To do that, the heroes either have to capture the villains or find and touch the missile. The bad guys succeed if they capture the heroes or not allow them to capture the missile before time ends. We'll be choosing teams by dreaming lots. Explained All Might. But All Might, isn't there a better way to choose the teams? By skills, for example. Said Ida. Not really. This is the best way. When you're on a mission, you'll have to work together with any hero near you. You won't have the choice of who you're going to work with. Shot back Izuku at his friend. Oh, you have a point, Izuku-kun. Ida mumbled. All Might smirked a little. This wasn't chosen out of nowhere. He chose this specific training to put Izumi and Izuku in the same team so that she could make him trust her again to spill the truth about his power. But sensei, there are 21 people in the classroom. We can't be split into groups of 2. It's not an even number. Interrupted Momo Yaoyorozu. Yeah, and for that reason will be, said Toshinori before getting interrupted by his biological son. I'll work on my own. Izuku interrupted. But young Yagi, you can't defeat 2 of your classmates alone. That is dangerous. Shot back All Might. Don't worry All Might, sir. I'm okay on my own, said Izuku with a fake smile. If you insist, then okay, go ahead. You'll be Team A and the rest of you I'll be plotting now, said All Might. Great. Thank you very much, said Izuku. All Might then proceeded to split the 10 teams with his daughter and Bakugo being put in Team D. And the first team is gonna be, said All Might while raising 2 balls. One had the letter A and the other had the letter D. Izuku looked at his sister and childhood friend and saw them glaring at him, which he smiled because of. Team D will be villains, Team A will be the hero. If anything gets out of hand, I'll personally step in, said All Might. Great. This will be fun, said Kawaki in Izuku's mind. Plus, it definitely will, replied the teen. Izumi and Bakugo entered the building and came up with a plan. Izumi hid the missile away and stood next to it as a guard. Bakugo, on the other hand, decided to fight Izuku so he could show him and the rest of the class that he was the superior of the 2. A few minutes later, it was Izuku's time to enter and start his own part. The rest of the class were in the monitory room watching their classmates and students, unaware that the principal, Nizu, alongside Present Mike, Aizawa and Midnight were watching them as well. Izuku was walking in slowly, knowing very well that the blonde would try to catch him by surprise, which wouldn't be easy. A few seconds passed before Bakugo jumped beside Izuku and blasted him with a huge explosion. Izuku sensed him and jumped out of the way with ease. The explosion caused a lot of smoke, which both Izuku and Bakugo shook off. "Look who's avoiding fighting because he knows that he's weak," said Bakugo with a cocky tone. "You're delusional and dumb. Couldn't find any other way than sneaking on me. Absolute CRP. Shot back Izuku. "I'm going to break every single bone in your body," said Bakugo while running towards the other teen. Izuku stared, dodging the latter's explosions in a way that seemed like he was toying with him. Bakugo was starting to become more and more furious. He continued blasting Izuku with explosions left and right, but it was for no use as the green-haired teen just dodged them all. "Fight me, you Demon Deku, and stop avoiding my attacks," said the angry teen with rage in his voice. "No, this is fun," Izuku said back, trying to anger the other teen as much as possible. Bakugo and Izuku continued the same strategy until they reached a close end. Bakugo then smirked as he raised the gauntlet on his hero costume. "I'm going to kill you, Deku," said Bakugo. "Young Bakugo, stop, this is going too far," shouted All Might through the speakers. "He'll be fine as long as he dodges," answered Bakugo. Bakugo pulled out the grenade pin and released a massive, powerful explosion that destroyed everything in the area and filled it with smoke. The entire class erupted in chaos after seeing Bakugo's kill attempt, and All Might's eyes widened by the scene. Once the smoke cleared, Izuku appeared with a glowing shield and without a scratch on his entire body or costume. "You little itty, how did you stop that explosion?" screamed Bakugo. "You're weak," mumbled Izuku while removing his shield. "You weakling," screamed Bakugo. He started removing the other grenade and Izuku smirked. He got a kunai from his pants in a motion fast enough that no one saw. Once Bakugo removed the grenade, Izuku threw the kunai towards him, sticking right at the gauntlet's opening. Once the pin was removed, the gauntlet exploded on Bakugo and blasted the entire floor. Bakugo passed out and Izuku wrapped him with the capture tape. "And to think that I was scared of you when I was younger. Pathetic," Izuku mumbled. He then tracked down Izumi's life force and headed towards it, which was on the 4th floor. Once he smashed the door open, he looked towards Izumi. The girl looked at him with shock. "Did he defeat Kachan?" she mumbled under her breath. Izuku was becoming more and more bored of the training, so he walked towards the bomb to touch it and win. Izumi then ran towards him while floating all the objects around her. She started attacking him with all the said objects. Izuku created a chakra sword and started cutting through all the objects with ease, and the ones he couldn't cut he dodged. After all the objects were destroyed and cut into small pieces, Izumi stood still, unaware of what to do. "What's wrong? Scared to fight?" he said sarcastically. "In your dreams, I'm going to destroy you even if Kachan couldn't do it," screamed the girl. She ran towards Izuku with her quirk 1 for all activated and punched him straight in the stomach. The strength of her punch was so drastic it partially destroyed the entire floor. She then fell on the floor screaming in pain due to her arm being destroyed. She looked at the bomb and saw her brother standing next to it. Her eyes widened and she looked towards the place that flounced her brother, only to find another Izuku. The other Izuku puffed into smoke while the original touched the bomb, signaling the hero's victory. The support team came and took the 2 injured students while Izuku walked back towards the monitoring room. "That was amazing. How did you defeat both of them without breaking a sweat? What's your real quirk?" The entire class started questioning the teen. "Okay, calm down. I defeated them because they both were too stupid and reckless that their moves were easily predictable. And my quirk is a secret for now," said Izuku as he gave them a wink. "Good job, young Yagi, but you hurt young Bakugo a lot during the fight. That wasn't so hero-like of you," said All Might. "Or maybe you not stopping the fight when you noticed that he was actually trying to kill me alongside Izumi wasn't so hero-like." All Might shot back Izuku with a glare. All Might didn't say anything back as he was taken back by his son's tone. The rest of the teams continued their fights, some including the likes of Todoroki Shoto doing better than others. Izuku wasn't so interested in watching the fights, but he took it as a chance to analyze all of his classmates' quirks and fighting style. Izuku was heading to his school for a new day when he noticed the media surrounding the entire school gate while questioning his classmates. Izuku continued walking until a reporter ran towards him. He smiled at her, trying to not be rude, and answered some simple questions she had. The reporter then started questioning him about All Might, which the rest of the reporters also did to all his classmates. When Izuku looked at his friends and noticed that they were getting uncomfortable and didn't know what to, he sighed. He went towards Ochako and told the rest to follow him. They started walking towards the school's gate until the same reporter stopped them. "Excuse me, ma'am, as much as I'd love to tell you all about the school and the #1 hero that's teaching us, this is personal info that the public has no right to know, so please leave these grounds because it's pointless to even try," Izuku said. Before hearing anything that anyone had to say, he ordered the class to enter the school, and he followed them. The reporters tried to enter, but the defenses turned on, blocking all of them out, which angered the reporters and the civilians with them. The students thanked Izuku for his help, then went to their class. During Aizawa's class, he congratulated all of them for their performance the day before. He then gave some notes about some of the students, including Bakugo and Izumi. "Now for the important business. This task will decide your future," said Aizawa. Another quirk test. Questioned all the students in their brain. "You have to pick a class representative," explained Aizawa. "Oh, just normal school work." They all sweat dropped. "Pick me, guys, I want to be representative," said Kirishima. The rest of the class then erupted into chaos, with everyone trying to convince the rest to pick them. "Calm down, guys. Class representatives have to lead the entire classroom. That won't be easy, as that person needs the entire classmates' trust. I say we hold an election to choose the best person to lead us all," said Izuku. "But we've only known each other for a few days. How are we supposed to know who to trust?" asked a girl with a frog quirk. Remembered Izuku, she asked him to call her. "True, but you don't need long before you find someone you truly trust. Some people just have a leader spirit," answered Izuku. He then got a box and spoke. "We are 21 students in here. Every one of you write the name of who you think is the best candidate for this job. If you have more than one option, then you can write the name of 2 people. Everyone nodded and then did as told. Put the papers in the box, and Aizawa then opened all the papers and organized all the votes. On the board the students saw Izuku Yagi, 18 Momo Yaoyorozu, 3 Tenya Ida, 2 Katsuki Bakugo, 1 Izumi Yagi, 1. How did I get 18? Izuku practically screamed. "The question is, why did you get only 18? Who didn't vote for Yagi-san?" said Momo. "I'd rather die than choose stupid Deku. Oh, lead me," screamed Bakugo. "He's not capable of being a leader. He's barely even useful here," continued Izumi. "I obviously didn't vote for myself. You and Ida-kun are obviously better choices for this. You who wed great tactics during the training yesterday," added Izuku. "I don't think so, Izuku-kun. You've shown over and over how you have the best hero and leader spirit out of all of us. Without you we couldn't have escaped the press and reporters, nor would we have came with this amazing idea to choose the leader," exclaimed Ida. "Yeah, I completely agree. Not to mention that you came up with amazing plans to defeat your enemies in a matter of seconds, which most of us in the class can't do," added Momo. "Oh, if that's the case, then I'll gladly accept this role that you guys trust me with. I promise to be the best class representative I could be, and I hope that Miss Yaoyorozu here will help me as much as she can," said Izuku. "I definitely will. But please just call me Momo. We're classmates and friends, we don't need formalities," said Momo. "Okay, as you wish, as long as you call me Izuku instead of Yagi or anything similar." "Okay, I agree with your terms," replied Momo. Izuku smiled. Then they headed towards the cafeteria to have their break, where they discussed a lot of topics that came up in their minds. While Izuku, Ida, Yururika and Momo were talking about Ida's family and brother, whom Izuku was absolutely obsessed with, the bell rang, signaling a villain has entered the grounds of the school. Just like previously, the entire cafeteria erupted in chaos. Everyone was pushing everyone as they were trying to leave the cafeteria and check what was going on. Izuku was smashed to the glass by some guy that pushed him. There he saw that the reporters were the ones trying to enter the school and that his two teachers 𝗕𝗏𝗧𝗏𝗃 and 𝗕𝗏𝗏𝗏 were trying to calm them down. After his discovery, Izuku rushed towards Yururika and asked her to make him float. She did as told, and then he told Momo and Ida to push him away as hard as possible, which they also did. He hit the cafeteria's wall and everyone was looking at him. Calm the hell down. It's just reporters trying to break into the school to interview All Might. Stop acting like toddlers and sit the hell down and act like heroes, shouted the green-haired boy. Upon hearing that, everyone calmed down and went back to their places while most of the students of Class 1A smiled, knowing they chose the best representative. Bakugo and Izumi were cursing him after they saw how he received all of the attention in the cafeteria and was the center of spotlight. You do realize that you could have just walked to the wall instead of asking them to literally smash you to a wall, right? Asked Sasuke. Oh yeah, I could have done that, mumbled Izuku, which made the other people in his mind sweat drop at his answer. Good job calming them down, Izuku-kun. I'm sure we have chosen the best representative for our class, said Momo with a smile. Thank you, Momo. I'm just shocked how those people can even call themselves heroes in training. Deadpanned Izuku. Yeah, you're right. Their reaction was absolutely reckless and childish, said Ida. Izuku only nodded as he looked at his two uncles, keeping the press away from the school. Today's training is different than usual. You'll have 4 instructors, me, All Might, Magenta, and 1 more factory member, said Aizawa. The entire class started mumbling about what he said, throwing opinions left and right while Izuku was stuck in his place with his eyes widened. He didn't want to hear what he heard. Inko was a part of the training. The woman he trusted, the same woman that betrayed him and neglected him, was going to be a part of his training. Let me continue. You'll be training in rescue. We'll start with natural disasters, shipwrecks, and more. What the teacher said excited the class even more that they mumbled even more. I'm not finished yet. What you wear in this exercise is up to you. You're free to use your costumes, but keep in mind that you're still not used to them, so there is a chance that they might limit your abilities. Also, this training is in an off-campus facility, so we'll be taking a bus to get there, continued Aizawa as he left the class and went to the bus. The entire class then went out and stood beside the bus while flexing their costumes. Okay guys, sit however you'd like, but please be calm so that Mr. Aizawa doesn't murder all of us, said Izuku. The entire class nodded in understanding, then entered the bus, trying to remain as calm as possible. Once the train took off, the entire class started talking, and once their sounds became too loud, Izuku glared at them, which made them gulp in slight fear. They then started discussing their quirks, everyone discussing their own insecurities related to their personal powers. Remember guys, your powers are all unique in their own way, and not to mention that quirks aren't what defines a hero, it's the hero's heart and heroic selfless personality that every one of us should have, said Izuku. Yeah, he's right, all of our quirks are cool. Good thing none of us are quirkless, interrupted a guy called 𝗧𝗏. May I ask why that is? Asked Momo. Easy. Quirkless people obviously can't become heroes. No one would accept them since they are weak. After all, quirkless people in our society are useless. Denki was cut off with a glowing kunai right beside his head. Everyone looked towards Izuku, who had another kunai in his hand while his head was low. What the heck, 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏? Screamed Kaminari. Izuku raised his head and glared at Denki and 𝗧𝗏 with his Sharingan, which both scared and confused both of them. He then stood up and went towards both of them, then held Kaminari by the collar of his hero costume. Listen Denki, you're kind of my friend, but repeat that last sentence one more time and trust me, I'll make you regret ever coming out of your mother's WMB instead of just dying there, threatened Izuku with his dojutsu still on. Before the boy or anyone could say anything, Aizawa cut them off, saying that they reached their destination. They left the bus while Izuku was fuming with anger. They went to the gate where the pro heroes 13 and Magneto were waiting for them. The entire class started fanning over the two heroes while Izuku was calming down his nerves and trying to not stab both Denki and his mother that was staring right at him. Inko during that time was feeling heartbroken as her baby boy wasn't wearing the suit that she worked with him on when he was a child. Come on kids, I can't wait to show you what's inside, said the pro hero 13. This is gonna be awesome, said most of the class. I hate this already, mumbled Izuku. Once they entered, Magneto took them all around the facility that they were going to train in. Aizawa then talked to the two female pro heroes about why All Might hadn't showed up yet, and Izuku alongside some of his classmates heard some of the conversation. Izuku then went to Momo and they both sat down before Izuku started talking. Something is going on. They wouldn't have Mr. Aizawa alongside 3 other pro heroes in here for no reason, said Izuku. Maybe they're just worried for our safety. We are still 15 after all, said Momo. Yeah, you have a point, but thinking about it, you wouldn't have given a false alarm yesterday. I think a villain actually entered the school grounds, but the teachers didn't tell us about it. Also, I'm 16, not 15. Shot back Izuku. That could be a possibility. But did you say you are 16? Questioned Momo. Yeah. I'm a year behind cause my sister there had some kind of problem and she couldn't enter the school until a year after the rest of our classmates, so now I'm older than everyone else in the classroom, answered Izuku. Momo only nodded as a sign of understanding. The two then headed back towards the 3 heroes where they heard 13 talking about her quirk, black hole. She then gave them a speech about how their powers can be dangerous and that they should focus to help others while making sure that they do not hurt anyone. Alright, now that she's over, let's begin, said Aizawa. Suddenly the water of the fountain started disappearing and the electricity started going off and on. Out of nowhere, a portal which looked like a black hole appeared in the center of the facility. A bunch of people started stepping out of it and all the class noted how creepy they looked. Did we start already? Also, didn't you say that this is a rescue mission? Why are there all those fake villains here then? Questioned Ida. All of you, those are real villains, I can sense that they're evil, said Izuku. He's right, they are real villains, step back and let us pros deal with them, added Inko. The 3 heroes then jumped down to fight off the villains while the heroes in training stood back. We're heroes in training. Do they really expect us to listen to them and let them get hurt while we're watching? Guys, the pros are fighting and we're just standing, we have to help them, but don't do anything now. Jumping in now is irrational and irresponsible. Izuku spoke. Say whatever you want, but I'm going to go beat some villains up, shouted Bakugo as he jumped down, followed by Izumi. Izuku expected the rest to do the same, but instead they stood still and looked at him. Okay, great, some people actually have brains. Ida, go to the school and ask Mr. Nizu for any support we can get. The rest of you stay together and don't do anything unless any one of the pros are in danger, said Izuku. Are we sure that this plan will work? Asked Yururika. Izuku came with the best plans and dealt with issues in the best way possible, so I think we should trust him, answered Momo. Yeah, shouted the rest of the class. Izuku heard Izumi scream. He looked down only to find his sister and Bakugo getting trapped in the mist guy that teleported the villains into the facility. Ida, run now, Izuku ordered. Ida obliged and ran away, but he wasn't fast enough as the mist guy appeared in front of him. There is no escape for anyone here, threatened the mist man. We are the League of Villains, excuse our rudeness, but we decided to join the party here. Isn't it the best place for All Might to take his last breath? We heard he was supposed to be here, but I can't find him anywhere. Hearing that, Kaminari and Kirishima ran towards him, but he ended up teleporting them away. Izuku then tried to tell the class to hide and run away, but the mist wrapped around them, teleporting everyone to a place in the facility. Izuku found himself falling to the water, and once he reached, he met 2 guys with similar shark quirks. Izuku created a sword and attacked the first, while the second was suddenly punched away by none other than 𝗬𝗓. Izuku and 𝗬𝗓 then left the water while 𝗬𝗓 was holding Mineta, a guy that seemed to have grapes for hair. Izuku jumped to the boat and 𝗬𝗓 threw Mineta after him and jumped to the boat after. Thanks for the help, 𝗬𝗓, said Izuku. You're welcome, Izuku-kun, she answered. The villains must have snuck into the school while everyone was freaking out in the cafeteria, said Izuku. The other 2 then started arguing about whether All Might would survive the villains' attack or not. More villains appeared in the water and headed towards the boat that the 3 were on. This is bad, but don't worry, I have a plan, I think. Mineta, what's your quirk? It's called pop-off. I can use the ball on my head to stick 2 objects together no matter what those objects are, explained Mineta. Great. Stick me and yourself to 𝗬𝗓. 𝗬𝗓, jump as high as you could. I'll do the rest. said Izuku. Mineta did as told and Tsu took a breath before jumping as high as she was able to. Izuku summoned a bunch of clones that then released a bunch of destructive electric discs. Once the discs made contact with the water, it electrified the entire area with everyone around it except the 3 heroes in training. Izuku unsummoned the clones and he alongside his 2 classmates reached the ground safe and without a scratch. Go help the others, I'll go look for Ida and help him leave and reach the school to get the pros, ordered Izuku. The 2 nodded and followed his rules and sprinted away to help their classmates. He looked around and saw Magneto and Aizawa fighting villains left and right, though those villains seemed to be endless as they kept appearing. He jumped back to where he first was teleported from and saw 13 alongside a few students including Ida fighting the mist villain. Anis. 13 try 𝗕𝗁𝗧𝗃 and disintegrate him with your quirk, said Izuku. The pro hero didn't know why she did what he said, but she did. She activated her quirk and the villain was starting to get sucked in. Izuku watched as a piece of metal appeared on his body. A weakness, he thought to himself. He jumped at the villain's piece of metal and took out the sword from his hero suit, which he inherited from Sasuke himself. The sword of Kusanagi, he stabbed the villain in the piece of metal, shattering it to pieces. Ida, school now, ordered Izuku. Without taking a second to think, Ida followed his friend's orders and activated his quirk, heading to school. The rest of you, go help the others, we don't want anyone getting hurt even more, said Izuku. His friends looked at each other and ran away, trying to find their other classmates as fast as possible to make sure that they didn't get hurt. Hey kid, what's your name? Asked the pro hero. Izuku, one of your biggest fans, answered the teen. I'm honored, you are going to grow up to become a great hero. You truly have the heart of a hero and the mind of a leader, exclaimed the hero. Thank you, but now isn't the best time to have this conversation. Can you please go aid my classmates? I want to help Mr. Aizawa, shot back Izuku. Yes sir, said the hero while saluting to the hero in training. Went towards the other heroes in training while Izuku jumped beside Aizawa. What do you think you're doing? Questioned Aizawa. What a hero would do. I'm helping someone that needs help even if that someone doesn't want to admit it, answered Izuku. Aizawa didn't say anything back and went back to taking down villains with his capturing scarf. He looked at Izuku and saw him taking down the rest with his chakra weapons. Except Izuku seemed to be simply knocking them down instead of killing them or severely hurting them. Then suddenly, a guy with gray hair and a bunch of hands all around his body ran towards Aizawa. The final boss, asked Aizawa to himself. He pushed the villain back with his elbow, but the wicked man touched Aizawa's elbow, disintegrating the skin around it. Aizawa jumped back and a bunch of villains ran towards him, only for Izuku to kick 3 of them in the face and stab the last in her shoulder. Aizawa stumbled back only for him to bump into a large, black humanoid monster with a very muscular body that had many scars on it, a brain which was exposed on the top of his head and large eyes are around it in addition to a beak-like mouth with an array of sharp teeth. Oh yeah, Eraserhead, I'm not the final boss, said the gray-haired villain. Izuku looked at the creature in horror as he saw the being crushing his sensei's arms and bones. He wanted to go help, but his body was stuck in its place. The creature then smashed Aizawa's head to the ground. Izuku started shaking in his place, unaware of what to do. All the other villains were beaten, but that creature was obviously too strong to deal with. He felt like he was frozen in his place. Unaware to him, the mist villain Kurogiri teleported next to the gray-haired villain, Shigaraki. Izuku heard Shigaraki saying they were going to leave, but he didn't do anything as he stared blankly at his sensei's bloody face and broken arms. After noticing that her friend was in danger, Tsu jumped next to Izuku, trying to make him snap out of his trance. Shigaraki saw that and smirked as he watched the 2 teenagers. Before we leave, I should make sure that the symbol of peace is broken. Let's make this hurt, screeched Shigaraki. He attacked Tsu's face with his hand and Izuku's eyes widened. His mind showed him the image of his friend disintegrating and turning to dust. The image made his blood boil as he fell to his knees with a 3rd tomo appearing in his Sharingan. Before he could move, Shigaraki's hand touched Tsu's face, but it seemed to do nothing. Izuku and Shigaraki looked at Aizawa and saw that his head was raised and his eyes were glowing a bright red. "Eraserhead, you're really cool," said Shigaraki. The Nomu then smashed Aizawa's head to the ground another time. That was when Izuku cracked. He ran towards the creature after pushing Tsu away as far as possible to make sure that she was okay. He charged as much chakra as he could control into his fist and punched the villain. The strength of the smash seemed to have destroyed everything in the surrounding 5 to 10 meters. All the villains were pushed back by the shockwave created by the power. A huge smoke screen appeared around Izuku, and once it cleared he saw that the gnome was completely unfazed. "Did he absorb my punch?" stuttered Izuku in his mind. The Nomu held Izuku in its hand and threw him to the ground. It then tried to punch him in his face, but he dodged it and jumped back. The doors of the facility then suddenly were blown open and everyone looked towards its direction only to find All Might and Iida standing together. "Have no fear, kids. I'm here," said Toshinori. "Is it the time for this dramatic entrance?" thought Izuku to himself. "Finally, the heroic piece of trash showed up," said Shigaraki. "Well, that's something we can agree on," thought Izuku. All Might then jumped onto the center of the facility and ordered everyone to leave and take Aizawa with them. They all followed the rules, but Izuku warned the hero. "He seems to have some kind of shock absorption quirk alongside his utterly ridiculous strength," warned Izuku. "Don't worry, young kid. I'll deal with him." Izuku did nothing but carry his uncle and jump back into the entrance where the rest of his class were waiting. He put Aizawa down and asked Iida to call the ambulance to immediately come and take him, and his fellow classmate nodded. Izuku then heard a huge explosion from the center of the facility. He looked down only to find All Might throwing punches left and right without any use. They then saw All Might strangling the creature, but the said creature stabbed All Might with its nails, and 𝗬𝗁𝗎 started warping All Might inside of him so he could cut him in half. Izumi, out of nowhere, jumped and ran towards her dad. She tried to punch him, but 𝗬𝗁𝗎 jumped in front of her to warp her hand off. She looked with terror until Izuku appeared and stabbed the villain in his metal piece another time. Bakugo then came in, blasting the piece over and over while shouting, "Die, die," which was annoying the others that were fighting in the area. The villain was then suddenly frozen by Shoto Todoroki. All Might loosened the villain's hands and jumped away, standing next to the heroes in training. Kirishima and Kaminari then jumped in to help their friends and the #1 hero. "Izuku-kun, what should we do? Should we come and help you?" asked Iida using the shared headpiece that the class had. "No. Stay beside Mr. Aizawa, and once the ambulance is here, leave all of you," ordered Izuku. The heroes in training wanted to argue, but they knew better than to not do what Izuku said. The Nomu stood up and regrew the limbs that he lost due to Shoto's quirk. Shigaraki then explained how that Nomu was modified with various quirks which made him strong enough to defeat Prime All Might. All Might ran towards the Nomu to punch it, and the Nomu repeated the hero's actions, causing a shockwave that destroyed the entire ground around them and pushed back everyone except Izuku, that focused the chakra to his feet to keep himself in place. All Might and the Nomu continued fighting, and All Might seemed to have the upper hand. He smashed the Nomu strong enough to throw him out the facility and shake the entire ground. Shigaraki was stuck in his place as he looked in shock and fear. The villain then started freaking out until 𝗬𝗁𝗎 started comforting him and telling him that they still had time to kill All Might before reinforcement came. Bakugo, Kirishima, Todoroki, and Izuku then went to take down the weaker villains that were regaining consciousness. Izumi, on the other hand, used her quirk to jump, which broke her feet. She tried to punch 𝗬𝗁𝗎's metal piece, but the villain teleported Shigaraki's hand towards her face. Before she could close her eyes, the hand was stabbed with a sword and shot with a bullet. She saw that Izuku had stabbed the hand, and they all looked towards the opening where they saw that the pro heroes arrived. Finally, the pro heroes entered the facility and started taking villains from all around the said facility while All Might was helping his daughter. Seeing that the plan had failed, Shigaraki and 𝗬𝗁𝗎 teleported away before any hero could catch them. They all stood in peace until Izuku heard a screeching sound coming from outside the facility. They looked at the crater that All Might punched the Nomu from, and from the same crater came in a flying black object. Said object was none other than the Nomu that punched All Might. Before the #1 hero could do anything, Izuku asked him to remain still. All Might didn't listen as he attacked the creature, and they repeated the same fight they had a few minutes ago. Izuku, mad about All Might ignoring him, jumped between them. He glared at All Might with his Sharingan on and focused the chakra in his feet, kicking him away. He looked at the Nomu and jumped on its back. He then got out his sword and stabbed the creature in its exposed brain. The creature fell down with the sword in its head. Izuku took his sword and put it back in its place. He was barely breathing as he glared at the number 1 hero. "You are reckless. You have caused more danger than help in the entire facility. Any one of us here would have died. You also fought without a plan, only throwing punches. I can't believe you're even a pro," complained Izuku. He then walked back to the rest of his classmates and the pro heroes. Said pro heroes tried to talk to him, but Nizu told them to let him go to his class as he must be exhausted. Izuku did just that and went to his friends. He jumped on Ida and gave him a hug. "Thank you for your help, Ida-kun." "No, thank you. Without you none of us would be able to survive without injuries." "You are our hero," said Ida. "Our hero," screamed Izuku's classmates. Thanks guys, let's go to school though. I want to check on how Mr. Aizawa is doing." And with that the kids and pro heroes headed back to UA, and Izuku ran to his sensei's room. "I still haven't healed him. He doesn't have enough stamina to heal any of his injuries. Not even the minor ones," said Recovery Girl. The student's eyes widened with fear. Izuku gulped and walked towards his sensei's bed while holding back his tears. "Sensei, can you open your mouth please?" asked Izuku. Aizawa was confused, but he did as told and struggled to open his mouth. "Izuku, no. You just fought for about 4 hours straight and evolved your Sharingan. This technique is going to drain so much chakra," said Sakura in his mind. "Or at least use some of the chakra of the fruit instead of your own," added Kawaki. Izuku didn't listen to them as he put his hand in front of his sensei's mouth. "Bite me," ordered Izuku. That confused all the people in the room, including Aizawa. The black-haired man had nothing to lose, so he did just as told. Once he bit Izuku's hand, a green cloak surrounded his body while all his injuries and scars were starting to heal. A few seconds later Aizawa stood up feeling new and without any injuries. He, alongside the other people in the room, looked at Izuku with wide eyes. "How did you do that?" asked the school's nurse. "I used my," said Izuku. Before he could continue, he fell down to his knees completely unconscious, which freaked out the entire room. "Is he okay?" asked Yururika. "He's fine. Just passed out," said Recovery Girl. They put the guy on a bed and then Recovery Girl kicked all of them out and then followed behind. Izuku was completely passed out that he couldn't even enter his mindscape. The students were told to go home while the pros went to Nizu's office to discuss everything that happened. That kid is something else. How is he so strong? What kind of quirk does he have? How did he heal Aizawa so quickly? And more questions were getting thrown left and right. The kid is truly powerful and special. His quirk is barely even known. No one knows what more he's capable of doing. Also, his analyzing and leadership skills are absolutely fascinating. He is pretty reckless though when it comes to saving those around him. "I guess we have 2 reckless heroes now," said Midnight. All Might felt offended but did nothing as he knew that she was correct. "Plus, what are you hiding from your mommy, Izuku?" thought Inko.